Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Very warm welcome to this Monday morning Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam discussion. Today we are reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 4, Text 24. Before we discuss on this verse, let's sing Jai Radha Madhav. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Tirivara Dhari, Gopijana Vallabha Tirivara Dhari, Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari, Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari, Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe. Jai Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe. Jai Nitai Sachinandana Gaurahari, Nitai Sachinandana Gaurahari, Jaya Nitai Sachinandana Gaurahari, Nitai Sachinandana Gaurahari, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र शतश्री श्रीमद् His Divine Grace Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki jai, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री वासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय. All glories to the simple devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the simple devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the simple devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu Krishna Matirastu Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevāya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevāya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevāya. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, entitled The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 4, Text 24. Namastasmai bhagavate vāsudevāya vedhase papur jñānam ayaṁ saumyā yan-mukhāmburuhāsavam. Namastasmai bhagavate vāsudevāya vedhase papur jñānam ayaṁ saumyā yan-mukhāmburuhāsavam. Namastasmai bhagavate vāsudevāya vedhase papur jñānam ayaṁ saumyā yan-mukhāmburuhāsavam. Word by word, Namaha, my obeisances, tasmai, onto him, bhagavate, onto the personality of Godhead, Vāsudevāya, onto Vāsudeva or his incarnations, vedhase, the compiler of the Vedic literatures, papur, drunk, jñānam, knowledge, ayaṁ, this Vedic knowledge, saumyā, the devotees, especially the consorts of Lord Krishna, yat, from whose mukha-amburuha, the lotus-like mouth, asavam, nectar from his mouth. Translation by His Divine Grace Śrīla Vyāsadeva Swami Prabhupada ki jai. I offer my respectful obeisances onto Śrīla Vyāsadeva, the incarnation of Vāsudeva, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarean transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. In pursuance of the specific utterance vedhase, or the compiler of the system of transcendental knowledge, Srila Sridhara Swami has commented that the respectful obeisances are offered to Śrīla Vyāsadeva, who is the incarnation of Vāsudeva. Srila Jiva Goswami has agreed to this, but Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has made a further advance, namely that the nectar from the mouth of Lord Krishna is transferred to his different consorts, and thus they learn the finer arts of music, dance, dressing, decorations, and all such things which are relished by the Lord. Such music, dance, and decorations enjoyed by the Lord are certainly not anything mundane, because the Lord is addressed in the very beginning as para, or transcendental. This transcendental knowledge is unknown to the forgotten conditioned souls. Śrīla Vyāsadeva, who is the incarnation of the Lord, thus compiled the Vedic literatures to revive the lost memory of the conditioned souls about their eternal relation with the Lord. One should therefore try to understand the Vedic scriptures, or the nectar transferred from the Lord to his consorts, in the conjugal humor from the lotus-like mouth of Vyasadeva or Shukadeva. By gradual development of transcendental knowledge, one can rise to the stage of the transcendental arts of music and dance displayed by the Lord in his Rasa Leela. But without having the Vedic knowledge, one can hardly understand the transcendental nature of the Lord's Rasa dance and music. The pure devotees of the Lord, therefore, however, can equally relish the nectar in the form of the profound philosophical discourses and in the form of kissing by the Lord in the Rasa dance. And there is no mundane distinction between the two. Before we discuss on this verse, let us offer some prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Shreshtham Manamapi Shachiputram Matra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Murupurim Maturim Goshthavati Radha Kundam Girivaram Maho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Adadandastranam Dante Idam Yachah Punah Punah Shriman Rupa Padambhojam Dhulisyam Janma Janmani He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Today's verse, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 4, Text 24. Namastasmai bhagavate vāsudevāya vedhase papur jñānam ayaṁ saumyā yan-mukhāmburuhāsavam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Śrīla Vyāsadeva, the incarnation of Vāsudeva, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarean transcendental knowledge, dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. This particular verse is spoken by Srila Shukadeva Goswami. And here he is glorifying his father, Śrīla Vyāsadeva. So he is saying, let me offer my respectful obeisances to Namat tasmai bhagavate vāsudevāya vedhase. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Śrīla Vyāsadeva, the incarnation of Vāsudeva, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. This is the Vedaischa sarvairahameva vedyam Vedanta krit Vedanta videva chaham. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that of everything in the Vedas, I am to be known. So it is Krishna who has to be known. Adau ante cha madhye cha hari sarvatra giyate. It is mentioned that Vede Ramayane Mahabharate chaiva. So if we look at all the scriptures, if we look at the Vedas, look at Ramayana, if we look at Mahabharata, Śrīmad-Bhāgavad Gita is one of the sections in Mahabharata where the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna himself has spoken. Gita sugita kartavya kimanyai shastra vistarai ya swayam padmanabhasya mukha padma dvinisruta. So this is mentioned about the glorification of Śrīmad-Bhāgavad-gīta, where it is said that what else is the need of reading any other scriptures? Kim anyai shastra vistarai, Gita sugita kartavyai. Why? Because ya swayam padmanabhasya mukha padma dvinisruta. Why? Because the Bhagavad Gita has come directly from the ya swayam padmanabhasya. Krishna's another name is Padmanabha. From his navel sprouts the lotus, and in that lotus sits Brahmaji. So he is called Padmanabha. Krishna's another name is from whose navel the lotus sprouts. Yasvayam Padmanabhasya Mukha Padma Dvinisruta. So from his lotus-like mouth, this amazing transcendental knowledge of Śrīmad-Bhāgavad-gīta has come. This is what is mentioned. Yasvayam Padmanabhasya Mukha Padma. And similarly, it is mentioned here, yan-mukhāmburuhāsavam. So mukhāmburuha, the lotus-like mouth. Asavam, nectar from his mouth. So it's very similar to that Gita Mahatmya shloka. Ya swayam padmanabhasya mukha padma dvinisruta. Yan mukhāmburuhāsavam. So this is the lotus-like mouth of Śrīla Vyāsadeva, and this nectar of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So this is the transcendental knowledge of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. It is mentioned about Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam, Shukhamukhad amrita drava samyutam, Pibatam Bhagavatam rasamalayam, Muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhauka. It is mentioned about what is Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. It is the ripened fruit of all the Vedic knowledge. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam. And that ripened fruit has been tasted by the parrot, Shukadeva Goswami. Shukhamukhad amrita drava samyutam. Pibatam Bhagavatam rasamalayam. So this Bhagavatam is like the nectarean content, which is full of nectar. So when one drinks this nectar, muhuravo rasika bhuvi bhavuka. Who is drinking this nectar of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam? Rasika. Who is Rasika? Rasika is one who raso vaisaha. So Krishna is an embodiment of total bliss. So Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Abhinnatvat Nama Namina. This is the transcendental potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. That there is no difference between his name and he himself, personally. So this is the touchstone. And therefore, it is said that one has to be very careful when what one is desiring, when one is chanting the holy names of the Lord. Because it's like a touchstone. So if one is desiring to stay in this material world with no grief, just stay in the material world with all the attachments, the holy name is so powerful that it can satisfy that desire. But is that desire proper for the living entity? That is what one has to deeply think about. What is the actual desire that the living entity should have? So this is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu beautifully mentions. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim kavitam jagadisha kame. Mama janmani ishware bhavatad bhaktira hetakutai. So this is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, that I don't want wealth, O Lord. I don't want followers, na janam. Na sundarim, I don't want a beautiful partner. Na sundarim kavitam. But jagadisha kame, I don't want any fame. Then what do you want? What I want is, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Mama janmani ishware bhavatad bhaktir ahetukitoi. Let birth after birth, let me have this costless, loving, devotional service to you, O Lord. That is the natural condition of all the living entities, which is that they are automatically attracted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is automatic attraction. It is present within all the living entities, that automatic attraction for the Lord. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabo Noy Shravanadhi Shuddha Chitte Koroy Uday. This is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that it is the love for the Lord is already there in the heart of all the living entities. It's not something that has to be externally attained. It is there, it is present. And how does it get revealed? Shravanadhi Shuddha Chitte. When one is hearing about the Lord with clear mind. What does it clear mind mean? Shuddha Chitta. It means that the mind is totally focused on hearing about the Lord. There is not even an iota of the mind which is deviated from hearing from the Lord. The 100%, the mind is totally focused on hearing about the Lord. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte. Then what happens? Koroye Uday. What is already there is seen. The example given is that of the sun. The sun seemingly rises and seemingly sets. But is it actually the case? The sun is always existing at one place. So it happens that the way the revolution and rotation is going on, it feels as if the sun is rising and the sun is setting. But actually the sun is always existing. This is very similar to, this is a very beautiful metaphor that we can use to understand that the love for the Lord is always existing. But sometimes it seems to be coming and sometimes it seems to be going, just like the sunrise and the sunset. But what is the actual thing? The actual thing is it is always existing. And this is true for all the living entities. That's why Krishna says, Mama eva amsha jiva loke jiva bhuta sanātana manaha shashtani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, that all the living entities are my eternal part and parcels. Sanātana, always, eternally. But why is the struggle in the material universe happening? Karshati, that is a struggle. Why? Because manaha shashtani indriyani prakritisthani. When the identification with the mind, which is the sixth sense, and the five senses happen, there is this struggle in the material world. The struggle in the material world happens because of our identification with the body and the five senses and the mind. But actually, as Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, our original nature is na jayate mriyate va kadachit. Nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya ajo nityam shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Krishna very clearly mentions that is our original nature, which never dies. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit. At any point of time, it never dies. Nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya. At any point of time, there is no time when we did not exist. We existed in the past. We know that we are existing now, and we will exist in the future, even after the death of the body. Nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya ajaha. So Krishna very clearly says, who are we? Unborn. Nityam, shashvatoyam. So again, it is eternal. Purano, the oldest. Why oldest? Because there is no beginning and there is no end. So when there is no beginning and there is no end, it is Purana. So there is no, we cannot say when the person came into existence and when the person did not come into existence. There is no question of the person actually running out of existence. So this is ajo nityam shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. When the body gets destroyed, the real person always exists. The person does not get destroyed. This is the transcendental knowledge, and this is the knowledge that is given by Śrīla Vyāsadeva. And therefore here Śrīla Shukadeva Goswami is offering his respectful obeisances to his guru and his father. Namas tasmai bhagavate vāsudevāya vedhase. So Vāsudevāya is said to be the literary incarnation of Krishna or Vāsudeva. So Vasudeva sutam devam kamsa chanura mardhanam devaki paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Krishna is the son of Vasudeva, and therefore he is called Vāsudeva. Vasudeva Sutam Devam. And what did he do? Kamsa Chanura Mardhanam. He killed the so-called invincible demons like Kamsa and Chanura. Kamsa Chanura Mardhanam. Devaki Paramanandam. So Krishna gives the supreme bliss to Devaki, his mother. Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Krishna, who is the first spiritual perceptor of the whole universe. Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. So this is there is a 8 verses called Krishnashtakam, the 8 verses glorifying Sri Krishna, and this is the first verse of that. So here, that is Vāsudevāya vedhase. It is mentioned in this verse, Vāsudeva word. Vāsudeva is the son of Vāsudeva. Om namo bhagavate vāsudevāya. We say in the beginning of any class, we are offering our respectful obeisances to Vāsudeva. Om namo bhagavate vāsudevāya. So son of Vāsudeva. So here, namas tasmai bhagavate vāsudevāya vedhase. And vedhase, the compiler of the Vedic literatures. So this is what we said. Vedescha sarve raham eva vedyam vedanta krit vedanta videva chaham. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that of everything in the Vedas, I am to be known. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishta matta smritir jñānam apohanam cha. So Krishna says that I am situated in the heart of all the living entities, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Smriti, jñānam, and apohanam. Vedescha sarve ahameva vedyam. So Krishna mentions then that of everything in the Vedas, what is to be known? Krishna is to be known. Who is to be known? And he is the Vedanta Krit, Vedanta Videva Chaham. So Krishna says that I am the compiler of the Vedas and I am the knower of the Vedas. So Krishna is who can know more about something than the person who has written that. So Krishna in the literary incarnation as Vyasadeva has compiled all the Vedic literatures. Then he has written Mahabharata and then Bhagavad Gita within the Mahabharata. So this is the transcendental knowledge that is. And another important part that we can see from Vāsudevāya vedhase, compiler of Vedic literatures, is that this is Śrīla Vyāsadeva has actually, not only has he given the Vedas, the Samveda, Rigveda, Yajurveda, and Atharva Veda, the 4 Vedas, he has given this 18 Upanishads, and then 18 prime Upanishads, and then Bhagavad Gita is another Gita Upanishad, it is called. So Sarva Upanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandana Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gitamritam Mahat. Another shloka in Gita Mahatmya, it says that all the Upanishads are like the cows, and the milkman is Sri Krishna, Gopalanandana. Partho Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandana Partho Vatsa. The Arjuna is the calf. So generally it is said that before milking the cow, the milk is first given to the calf. Because when the milk is given to the calf, there is so much love coming out of the cow that it just floods itself with milk. So first the milk is given to the calf, and then the milk is taken. And when that milk is taken, the milk comes out profusely. So this is Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta. Who is the actual enjoyer, the drinker of this transcendental nectar of Bhagavad Gita? That is a person who is wise, Sudhi, Sudhir Bhokta. And what is the milk? The milk is Gitamritam Mahat, Dugdham. It is the nectar of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Gita. This is the wonderful Gita Mahatmya shloka. So this is what we can understand from Vāsudevāya vedhase. Then when we come to the third line of this verse, which is called papur jñānam ayaṁ saumyā. So papur is drunk, jnanam is knowledge, ayam, this Vedic knowledge, saumyā, the devotees. So who are drinking this transcendental nectar that is coming out from the writings and the talks of Śrīla Vyāsadeva, who is the literary incarnation of Vāsudeva, Sri Krishna. That is saumyā, the devotees, especially the consorts of Lord Krishna. So this is very beautifully mentioned here. Papur jñānam ayaṁ saumyā. So who is drinking this? It is the devotees, especially the consorts of Lord Krishna. This is and in the purport, it's very beautifully described in the purport. Srila Prabhupada mentions, Srila Sridhara Swami has commented that the respectful obeisances are offered to Śrīla Vyāsadeva, who is the incarnation of Vāsudeva, Sri Krishna. Srila Jiva Goswami has agreed to this, but Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has made a further advance, namely that the nectar from the mouth of Lord Krishna is transferred to his different consorts, and thus they learn the finer arts of music, dance, dressing, decorations, and all such things which are relished by the Lord. Such music, dance, and decorations enjoyed by the Lord are certainly not anything mundane, because the Lord is addressed in the very beginning as para or transcendental. So this is parat tasmatu bhavanyo vyakta vyaktat sanātana yasa sarveshu bhuteshu vinashatsu na vinashyati. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that there is yet another world which is transcendental to all this existence, the mundane existence in the material universe. Paraha tasmat tu bhavanya. It is an existential place which is vyakta avyaktat sanātana. So it is above the existence and non-existence. It is above the states of existence and non-existence, which is sanātana, which is eternal. Paraha tasmat tu bhavanyo vyakta avyaktat sanātana yahasa sarveshu bhuteshu vinashatsu na vinashyati. So when everything else gets destroyed, that particular transcendental realm stays there. It is always existing. So this is the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his abode and his name, everything related to him. So as we said, Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nityamukto Abhinatvat Nama Namino. So it is totally pure, Purna Shuddha, 100%, Nityamukta, eternally liberated. It is not like the conditioned living entities. The conditioned living entities are called the Tatastha Shakti. That is the marginal energy of the Lord. And what is the Tatastha? The marginal energy is such that sometimes it goes into that area of liberation, and sometimes it comes back into the conditioned state. It is like, and Tata generally is the shore, so seashore. So sometimes the water is coming to the shore and sometimes it recedes back, the water of the ocean. So this is the condition of the living entities. So sometimes they understand the significance of spiritual existence, and sometimes they get, most of the times, unfortunately, the living entities, conditioned living entities, are in the conditioned state of existence. What does this conditioning mean? It means that one is identifying oneself with the mind and the five senses and the body. That is the conditioned state of existence. And what is the liberated state of existence? It is iha yasya harer dasya karmana manasagira nikilaswapi avasthaso jivan muktasa uchyate. That is the liberated state of existence. What is it? It is that even while remaining in this whatever world the Lord has created, could be material or it could be spiritual. Iha yasya harer, one is always harer dasya. One is always the servant of Hari. How one is a servant of Hari? Karmana manasa gira. Through one's activities, karma, through one's mind, manasa, through one's gira, through one's speech, karmana manasa gira, nikhila swapi avasthasu. So one might be living in the material world, one is still jivan mukta sauchyate. One is still considered liberated. So this is the transcendental position of being in the state of remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When that remembrance is purely solidified as 100% absorption in that remembrance, that is jivan mukti. That is liberation. And that liberation is mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevate asman dharmarthas kala pratiksha. So this is mukti. So this is daivena na phalati divya kishora murti. This is said by Bilva Mangala Thakur. He says that bhaktis tvai bhagavata bhagavan yadi syat daivena na phalati divya kishora murti mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevate asman dharmartha kamagataya saumyā pratiksha. So this is very beautifully mentioned in that when one is totally absorbed in the loving devotional service of the Lord, that is pure devotional service, bhakti. So when there is that bhakti, the mukti itself becomes insignificant. That is the transcendental nature of the pure devotional service to the Lord, that liberation becomes insignificant. What to speak of the other three prior states, which is engaging in religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. So that is called purusharthas, the four main activities that the human being can get involved in: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. The four main activities. And this pure love for the Lord, prema pumartho mahan. It is said, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the pure, that is the it transcends the chatur purusharthas, because it is something that even the Supreme Personality of Godhead gets under the control of his devotees when there is pure love for him. We have seen this very clearly in the Kartik Masa, where Krishna is worshipped as Damodara, one whose belly has been tied with a rope. Dama Udara. Udara is the belly and Dama is the rope. So this is Damodara. Damodara Rati Vardhana Veshe Hari Nishkuta Vranda Vipineshe Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite. So this is this is what is mentioned here in this beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada, Transcendental Purport. He is mentioning about how Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura has given a transcendental approach to this particular verse, where it is said that the nectar from the mouth of Lord Shri Krishna is transferred to his different consorts, and thus they learn the finer arts of music, dance, dressing, decorations, and all such things which are relished by the Lord. And it's very important. Urdhva moolam adharshakha ashvatham prahuravyayam chandamsi yasya parnani yastam vedhase vedavet. It is very important to understand that the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. So whatever is the topmost enjoyment in the spiritual world is totally opposite. It is the most conditioned enjoyment in the material world. So here, it's not. That's why Srila Prabhupada always says in lots of his purports, his talks, his conversations, his morning walks, he's very careful about not going into the Rasa Leela pastimes of the Lord. The pastimes where Krishna is in the transcendental state of ecstasy with his loving devotees, which is the Madhurya. Shri Radhika Madhavayorapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namnam Pratikshana Swadhana Lulupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. So this is the Madhurya Leela. It is the topmost level of surrender to the Lord in the spiritual world. Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. So there is this as a servant of the Lord. So in each of those four levels, the awe and veneration keeps lessening. So in Dasya, in the mood of servant, the awe and veneration is the most prominent mode of devotional service, then in the Sakhya, the awe and veneration has reduced drastically. Why? Because we see when Krishna is playing, when the Krishna plays with his friends, the friends are sometimes Krishna takes the friends on his back, and sometimes the friend take Krishna on his back. So it is like where is the awe and veneration there? And sometimes they might get offended with Krishna, and they might scold Krishna, and then Krishna might scold back, and all those wonderful pastimes happen in the friendship, in the mode of friendship, the Sakhya, Dāsa Sakhya, and then there is Vatsalya. This is what is a prominent mood in the Damodara Leela, where Mother Yashoda is binding Krishna in the wooden mortar with the rope going around his belly. That is Damodara. So there again, the Lord is coming under the control of his mother. So he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvalokamaheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shanti muchyati. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, that he is the actual enjoyer of all the bhokta. Bhokta is the enjoyer of all the yajna and tapasa. What is it? Yajna is all the sacrifices that one is doing, and tapasa is all the austerities. So Krishna is the actual enjoyer, and Krishna is the actual proprietor of the whole universe. Unlimited spiritual universe, unlimited material universe. One tries to discover the material universe, and one keeps on discovering more and more and more. It doesn't seemingly end. So this is and Krishna is the proprietor of everything, the whole universe. And such a person gets controlled by his mother. So this is, therefore it is said that mukti dadati karichit smana bhakti yoga. So Krishna might give liberation to the living entities, but very rarely he gives pure loving devotional service to him. Because what happens when he gives pure loving devotional service? He comes under the control of his own devotees. So he actually says that he aswatantra hivadvija sadhubhir bhakta hridayo bhakta bhakta janapriya. So this is he actually says to Durvasa Muni that he says that aham bhakta paradhino. Krishna says that I am under the paradhina, adhina. So I am under the control of my devotees. He aswatantra ivadvija. So he says that, oh Brahmana, I am not independent. I am dependent on my devotees. This is a transcendental position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this kind of this control, when Krishna comes under the control, that is mainly happening in that Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Those three rasas. Of course, even in this one, Dasya, even as a servant, when someone is as a servant, the Lord is still. Lord also wants to serve the devotee. So this is the transcendental position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That he does not, and this is said about the pure, loving, devotional living entities as well. Atma ramascha munaya nigranthapi urukrame kurvanti ahetukim bhaktim itham bhuta guno hari. This is mentioned. Srila Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives 64 different ways of understanding this particular verse. Atma ramascha munaya. So what that verse's meaning is, when one is fully relishing, yastva atma ratireva syad atma triptascha manava atmanyeva cha santushta tasya karyam na vidyate. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that when one is in that atma ratireva, when one enjoys the bliss within, tasya karyam na vidyate. For such a person, there is nothing, it does not have to do anything. Because why does someone do something? Anyone does anything in this conditioned material universe so that they get something out of it. They get some kind of enjoyment out of it. That's why one is doing some activity. Or if they're not getting enjoyment, one is getting some material benefit out of it, through which finally one is planning to enjoy. But if the enjoyment is always existent within, that is Atma Rama. When one understands that everything is already there within, then tasya karyam na vidyate. Then for such a person, there is nothing left to be done. Everything is done for such a person. So this is the transcendental nature of Atma Rama, when one is relishing everything within oneself. So one has nigranthapi urukrame. One has taken off the hard knots of material existence. The hard knot of material, bhidyate hridaya granthi, kshiyante chasya karmani, drishtam evatmanishwari, chidiyate sarva granthi. So what there is that particular verse in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam where it is said that kshiyante chasya karmani, drishtam evatmanishwari. So all the hard knot of material existence is taken off. All the doubts are totally removed when one sees drishtam evatmanishwari, when one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead within oneself. This is because it is a matter of seeing it. The Lord is present in the heart of all the living entities. So that there is the presence of the Lord is there already. What is needed is that divya chakshusha. So when one has that transcendental vision, the divine vision, then one actually sees vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavyastini shuni chaiva shopakechas panditas samadarshena. So when with that divine vision, one can see that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present everywhere. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasya ham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that when one sees me everywhere and everything in me, I am never lost to such a person. Such a person is never lost to me. This is a transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Andantarastham parmanu chayantarastham Govinda Madipurusham taham bhajami. Ekopi asau rachaitam jagadanda kotim yet shaktirasti jagadanda taya yadanta. Andantarastham parmanu chayantarastham Govinda Madipurusham tamaham bhajami. As mentioned in Brahma Samhita, that Krishna is present in as the maintainer of the universes. He is present. That is the Brahmanda. Within the each of the universal existence, he is present, and he is also present within the nucleus of all the atoms. This is a all-pervasive nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, omnipotent, omniscient. So here, therefore, it is very important to understand that particular nature of the Lord before one tries to understand this. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada mentions by gradual development of transcendental knowledge, one can rise to the stage of transcendental arts of music and dance displayed by the Lord in his Rasa Leela. But without having the Vedic knowledge, one can hardly understand the transcendental nature of the Lord's Rasa dance and music. That is an extremely important point of this verse that we have to understand. Without having the Vedic knowledge, one can hardly understand the transcendental nature of the Lord's Rasa dance and music. Therefore, it is extremely important to understand our original constitutional position before we try and understand the Rasa Leela of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the transcendental divine music and dance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is totally based on spiritual existence. It has nothing to do with material world. So that is a parakiya rasa, the swakiya and parakiya rasa that is mentioned in the scriptures. It is the topmost. It is pure spirit. There is not even a trace of matter there in that in those divine pastimes of the Lord. And therefore it's not recommended that one. Of course, there is this wonderful verse in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam where it says vikriditam vrajavadubhir idam cha vishnu shraddhanvetya anushruniyad atha varnayadya bhakti bhaktis param bhagavati hridroga ashva apahinoti achirena dhira. So there is this beautiful verse in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam which says that when one hears this transcendental pastimes of Krishna or Vishnu with his consorts, Vikriditam Vrajavadubhir idam cha Vishnu, Shraddhanvita Anushunayad Atha Varnayadiye. When one is hearing it with total faith, that is the most important part there, total faith. Shraddhavan labate jñānam tatparat samyate indriya. So when there is total faith, there is control over the senses. And then when there is control over the senses, there is total peacefulness. And when there is total peacefulness, when one totally understands that I have nothing to do with this material body, then one can, that is Shraddha. So when Shraddhanvita Anushunayad Atha Varnayadiye, Bhaktis Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kamam Hridroga Ashva Apahinoti Achirena Dhira. So it is called Hrida Roga, this disease of heart. Actually, it's amazing how generally this disease of heart takes away the life of the living entity, and this existence in the material world is called as Hridroga as well. It is also called the disease of heart. So what is it? It is conditioning the living entity into the conditional state of existence, where one thinks that the sense enjoyment is the only enjoyment. There is no other enjoyment other than the sense enjoyment. That is Hridroga. That is the actual disease of heart. Of course, we do talk about the material disease of the heart as well, where the body, if it is really severe, one dies of heart attack. But before even that happens, one is unfortunately dying the spiritual death because of that Hridroga, that disease of heart, where one is getting attached to something that is temporary. So it is said in that particular verse of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that if one is hearing with full faith, what is that faith? That faith is the understanding of the total divine nature of all Krishna's activities. Janma karmam cha me divyam. Evam yo veti tatvatha tyaktva janmam punarjanmam neti mameti swarjuna. So this is mentioned by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, that when one understands that Krishna's birth and all the activities of Krishna are divine, janma karmam cha me divyam. How one understands evam yo veti tatvatah? One understands that in truth, in 100%. Tyaktva deham punarjanmam naiti. For such a person, after giving up this body, there is no another birth in the conditioned state of existence. Then what happens to such a person? Mam iti, so Arjuna. So Krishna mentions that such a person, he comes back to me. So therefore, it is extremely important to understand our own divinity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead's divinity, because we are eternal part and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in that way, we are also divine. Each and every living entity is divine. Because what is it that is animating the living entity? Even if you look at Sthavara Jangama na dekhe tar murti, sarvatra haya ishta janaspurti. So this is the transcendental position of the pure devotee of the Lord. He is not seeing that here is a sthavara and here is a jangama. So here is something that is non-moving living entity, and then here there is a living entity. He is not seeing anything like that. Only what the person is seeing is the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present everywhere. Yomam pashyati sarvatra. So this is a transcendental divine vision of the pure devotee of the Lord. So and what we can understand, like even if it is a tree or a plant, we see that they are also growing, even though they are staying at one place with their root in the ground, but they are also growing. They are also producing fruits and flowers. So what is it that is enabling that? It is the presence of the consciousness. The consciousness is present, and that is enabling the growth. It is called Shad-vikar. In the scriptures, it is called the 6 kinds of changes that happens. Takes birth, grows, stays for some time, produces byproducts, dwindles, and then vanishes. So that is the 6 changes that happen in all the existence that has the consciousness within it. It goes through all these 6 changes. And what is the cause of those 6 changes? The cause is because there is presence of the consciousness within. That is what is causing all those changes to happen. And that is the direct spiritual contact with the Lord. So that is why Krishna says, Mama eva amsha, jiva loke jiva bhuta sanātana. That all the living entities are my eternal part and parcels. So when they are eternal part and parcels of the Lord, what does it mean? It means that the divinity is existing in each and every living entity. Not only in each and every living entity, in each and every atom of this whole universe. Because Krishna says, Andantarastam Paramanu Jayantarastam. Govinda Madhipurusha. So he is present even in the nucleus of the atoms. Paramanu. So this nuclear bomb is called Paramanu Astra. So that is so he's present in the nucleus of the atoms. So this understanding is extremely important. And this understanding is what is coming when one is engaging in saying these wonderful prayers of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Tasmai bhagavate vāsudevāya vedhase papur jñānam ayaṁ saumyā yan-mukhāmburuhāsavam. This is it. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Śrīla Vyāsadeva, the incarnation of Vāsudeva, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarean transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. Such a wonderful metaphor is given in this verse about the nectar coming from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord, which when drunk in that pure form makes a living entity understand one's eternal position, which is free from janma mrityu jara vyadhi, which is free from birth, death, old age, and disease. Because that is what is the conditioned state of existence. When one says that I am born, immediately one has to accept that there will be death. And between the birth and death, one has to accept that there will be diseases and there will be old age. So this is the nature of the conditioned state of existence. So when one is saying these verses, this beautiful verse, tasmai bhagavate vāsudevāya vedhase papur jñānam ayaṁ saumyā yan-mukhāmburuhāsavam. When one is saying this, one is recognizing that transcendental state of existence, which is eternally available and accessible to each and every living entity. It is always, at any moment, one can access one's eternal nature. At every moment, actually, one can access. The only fundamental thing that is needed is looking at that particular aspect, which is actually the real aspect. That is the reality. The reality is that it is because of consciousness that I am talking here. And it is because of consciousness that if someone is hearing on the other side, they are hearing. If my consciousness was not there, I will not talk. And if the consciousness on the other side was not there, the person is not going to hear. So what is existing at the end of the day? It is consciousness. And what is consciousness? It is an eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And who are we all? At the end of the day, we are all consciousness. It is the presence of consciousness that is enabling us to do whatever we are doing. And if the consciousness goes away, body is dead. It is either buried or it is burnt. It becomes ash. It becomes part of the way it has come, in the sense that the earth part of the body will become earth, the water part will become water. Bhumi rapa anala vayu kham mana buddhi revacha. So earth, water, fire, air, ether, the space part will become space. Everything will get disintegrated. But what is it that is integrating everything? It's the presence of consciousness. And that is tasmai bhagavate vāsudevāya vedhase papur jñānam ayaṁ saumyā yan-mukhāmburuhāsavam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Śrīla Vyāsadeva, the incarnation of Vāsudeva, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarean transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. With that, I would like to conclude this discussion. See, Vamshinath Reddy is saying Hare Krishna, and Brain Yadav is saying Jai Shri Krishna. Thank you very much. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Sarvam Shri Krishna Pranamastu. Krishne Matirastu. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.